3.4. So the ready should look pretty familiar, but I want you guys to try this without going back and looking at things that you have previously done. So solving for x, you are factoring. So you want to write this out into the two parentheses, and then you're going to say x equals by changing the signs. So please don't forget that you need it in standard form, which means, for example, in 4 the 12 has to be moved over. If I have, let's say I have x squared minus 9, so this is an example like number 1. This would factor to x and x. And then how do I break apart the 9? 3 and 3. Well, since there's nothing in the middle, they have to cancel completely, which means one has to be plus, one has to be minus. Then I would set these equal to 0. Shortcut, you change the signs, and x equals 3 and negative 3. So that's one example. If you guys need that, you can always rewind it, pause it, write it down. Here's another example. X squared plus, let's go minus 7x. Let's go with plus 10. Okay. What multiplies to 10? 1 times 10, 2 times 5. Well, how do I get a negative 7? I'm going to use 2 and 5. So this would be x and then a 2 and an x with the 5. So how do I get a positive 10 and a negative 7? If I make them both negative, when I multiply the negative 2 and negative 5, it's a positive 10. But then when I do the x and the negative 5, it's negative 5x and negative 2x, which is negative 7. So that's how I get those factors. And then to change the signs, I get 2 and 5. So if you need that, pause it, write it down. Okay, now another example. Let's say I have x squared plus 6x minus, let's go with minus 7. I need to find multiples of 7, which is just 1 and 7. But I need to make this become a 6. So the only way I can get a 6 is if I add 7 and subtract 1. And 7 minus 1 is 6. And then I would change the signs. Here in 6, you got to factor that against. You'll have x and then 2 parentheses. When you have an x in the outside, so let's say I have an x plus 2, and an x minus 8. You guys are going to be good at seeing the ones that are in the parentheses, but then we always forget the one that's outside the parentheses. And that one, when I set that equal to 0, it equals 0. So whenever you guys have an x outside the parentheses, please make sure you identify that as an x-intercept that equals 0. All right, so that's your ready. If you need more help on the factoring, type in factoring into Khan Academy or on Google, and you might see some more, or just come in and get some help. I have plenty of workbooks that you guys can work on with factoring in them. So you're welcome to come in and get that extra help. All right, on this set, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on here. When it says combining polynomial functions, you're going to want to combine like terms. So in 7 and 8, those are the ones you're combining like terms. So I see f of x plus g of x. I'm just going to combine my like terms. Be careful in 8 though. So I'm going to have my f of x, but I'm going to subtract the g of x. So g of x must go in parentheses. So now I have to distribute my negative. So please make sure you distribute to everything, then you can combine like terms. Now in 9, it says multiply. So I'm going to have x squared plus 3x plus 2, and I'm going to multiply it to 5x minus 4. So I'm going to have to distribute, and this is similar to FOIL. It is. I'm going to distribute the x squared to everything in the second parentheses, which gives me 5x cubed. I have an x squared times an x, that's x cubed, minus 4x squared. Then I'm going to distribute the 3x. So 3x times 5x is 15x squared. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. And then I'm going to distribute the 2. And that would give me 10x minus 8. And then once you're done here, you're going to combine like terms. If that was confusing for some of you, let me show you another way that you can multiply this. Just like in elementary school when you guys are multiplying 3 and 2-digit numbers, you can line these up the exact same way. And you would multiply 4 and the 2, which is negative 8, 4 and the 3x, which is negative 12x, and then the 4 and the x squared, which is 4x squared negative. Then I can multiply the 5. Move over a spot just like you would in regular multiplication. This would give me 10x, 15x squared, and 5x cubed. Now my like terms are already in line. Negative 8, negative 2x, 11x squared, and 5x cubed. So that's just another way to see it. And you can use a box. So your third method, I can set up the box where I would have the 5x and negative 4, but then I would just have to have 3 on the top. X squared, 3x, and 2. So any method you guys want to use, feel free to take your pick. All right, moving on. So now for 10 through 15, this is just like what we did in class. You want to combine like terms. So here I'm going to put look at task, because there really is no need for me to go over this with you again. Look at your task. And then one way you can always check to make sure you got it right, type your solution into Desmos and see if you guys have the same thing. Don't work too hard on this, you guys. If you're not sure, especially with the quadratics, when you get the x squared, when you have an x squared, you guys, don't forget it should be a quadratic. If it's a negative x squared, okay, your parabola is going to go down. And if you're even still confused, make a table. Pick some values, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and plug in for x. There's nothing wrong with making a table, you guys. To get it, you're going to have to put some work in, and I know some of you are struggling with wanting to put work in. We want everything to just come easy, and sometimes it doesn't. Some of this is going to require you to work. So please don't be lazy with this. All right, now for the go. We're going to have to do some notes for the go. It's been a while. In 16 through 19, okay, 16 through 19, you are combining like terms. CLT, combine like terms. Then, when you get to the 20, 21, and 22, you are going to simplify your fractions based on what the variable is that's there. You're going to, let me make this a little bigger, it'll be easier. You are going to look at each piece individually. So the 6 and the 9 are your numbers. You're going to look at those together. And the 6 over 9 is going to become 2 over 3. Then you're going to look at your x. There is no other x, so you're going to leave it as x cubed. Then you're going to look at your y's. Oh, there's a y to the 5th and a y to the 1st, and the 1st is on the bottom. Well, this would be a y over y. And I can cancel one y's, one pair, which leaves me with 4 on the top. So that's a y to the 4th. And then the last thing I have is my z to the 4th, and there's only just that one, and it's in the bottom, so it goes to the bottom. So that's how you guys are going to go through and do 21. I know I did the easy one first for you guys, but you can go through and do 21. But the first thing you guys have to make sure you do is you distribute your exponent to everything inside those parentheses. So I'll help you with that, but then you're going to have to finish. So it's going to be 2 squared, which is 4. Then you multiply your exponents. So for the x, it's negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4. Please don't forget how to get rid of a negative exponent. The y cubed times 2, so that's y to the 6th, z to the 8th, y to the 4th, or sorry, not the 4th, y to the 2nd on the bottom, and z to the 8th. So now you guys can go through and cancel and move things around. On 22, you need to factor first. You're going to factor just the top. Or maybe you're looking at that and I don't want to factor, I don't understand how to factor that, I don't remember how to factor that. All of these have a 3, so I can divide by 3. So if you divide every term by 3, then you guys will get your answer. You can also separate this as 6x over 3 plus 9 over 3. And then you'll have your answer there. Okay. The last part of the go, it does say multiply. So I showed you how to do these back here. 23 you guys should be fine on. But for the others, look back here at 9 and how I showed you guys to multiply 9, the options that I gave you. It's the same thing here. So I would start with the x and I would distribute it to the parentheses. Then I would take the negative 3, distribute to the parentheses. Combine like terms, get your answer. So I'll do 24 with you. When I distribute the x, I'll use green for that. I get x cubed. X times x squared is x cubed plus 3x squared plus 9x. Now the red is from distributing the negative 3. So I get negative 3x squared minus 9x minus 27. Now, when I'm looking at this, what the heck? 3x squareds are going to cancel. The 9x's are going to cancel. And I am left with x cubed minus 27. All of that became that little tiny thing. That's going to happen all the way through those, so make sure that you guys are multiplying correctly. Then you're going to use this. You're going to look back, pay attention to what all of your answers are for 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. Pay attention to what all of those answers become and make a guess on 29, please. I'm going to help you with this one in class on 29. But I really want you guys to understand how you guys can factor a cubic function. The x cubed minus 1, the x cubed minus 8, x cubed minus 64. I want you guys to be able to factor those, and you're going to have to be able to factor them from memory. But you got this. Try and come up with a way that you guys can factor this just by looking at your answers for 24 through 28. And if you don't get it, somebody better ask me this in class tomorrow so I know to go over it with you guys. All right, that wraps up 3.4. Questions, mark them down. I'll help you with those in class tomorrow.